Hello, I am Christy Kennedy, image confidence expert, the owner of Konfidence Global Image Consulting, and I'm super excited to empower you today on communicating with Konfidence. How did I step into this space, which I call bodacious belief, audacious leadership? We've got to rewind in time. First, I am an only child. I am an introvert. I am an empath. And all of those things, I didn't know what to do with an exorbitant amount of emotions and energy. It needed to be honed, but it was going to take a 20 plus year journey to get to here. So I often say practice makes polished, and polished makes profits. I'm going to show you how to operate at the highest level of proficiency so you can live comfortably. You can live a life of grace and ease, even in the midst of adversity. So when I was younger, I lived inside of my head. I was always in this, what I call that turtle shell, hiding from the outside world. And if it weren't for journals, I really believe that I probably wouldn't be here because I had some strong suicidal ideations during a deep depression in my life. I lived in a highly volatile environment. My dad was on crack cocaine when I was younger. At one point, doing alcohol, and he was always angry. And I remember running to my next door neighbor's house. And so hence we learned behavior patterns. And anytime I felt conflict coming on, I would take flight, right? We either fight or flight. And that was establishing a pattern of fear in my life. So anytime things got difficult, Christy was on the run. And so as I went through high school, the awkward years, the braces and the glasses, I began to desire more. I wanted to step outside of my shell. And I remember being in what we call the Ebony Woman pageant, the scholarship pageant. And right during that time, I lose my virginity at the age of 17 and I become pregnant. And that sent me on a downward spiral because I was the good girl. And losing my virginity on top of getting pregnant and then having an abortion, it was too much mentally for me to bear, but I didn't know it at the time. I went to unhealthy coping mechanisms. I found myself drinking. I found myself being promiscuous. And I did that for about 5 years in this downward spiral of destruction, I call it. And I remember 1997, October, going to one more party. Fast forward, I'm in college. And I remember talking to a shoe shine man at the airport. We were going to the game of the year, FSU versus Miami. And as I was talking to the shoe shine man, he asked me two questions. He said, "Are you happy? And are you exercising your gifts?" Ladies, I couldn't do anything but weep. I wept in the airport with shades on my eyes. My eyes were bloodshot red from smoking and drinking. And I was just tired of running. And I told my girls that night, I have to go home. I said, that man knows God. That man knows God. And that was the crossroad that changed everything for me. A recent quote that I've just fallen in love with is, "The butterfly is beautiful because the caterpillar is brave." The butterfly is beautiful because the caterpillar is brave. And I've just been taking one brave act of courage every single day since. It's been a rocky road. It has not been a walk in the park. But I'm telling you, for someone who used to be absolutely horrified of public speaking, if it wasn't for God, if it wasn't for His Spirit, I would not be even sharing a message with you today. So I take no credit for this journey. I'm just glad I said yes. I'm glad I stopped running. And I remember my senior year, that year that I confessed Christ, I was sitting in the back of the classroom like I always did from freshman year to senior year. And all of a sudden now I'm getting courageous. And the teacher asked a question and my eyes lit up. I raised my hand and I answered it, and it was wrong. I mean, dead wrong. But in the back of that classroom, I began to weep because the caterpillar was changing. What I had always known was not what was always going to be. But I had to have my moment. I had to take a risk. We have to be willing to put, as I say, put our tails on the line. Because recently I saw this cat crossing the street and he had no tail. And I said that cat was willing to take the risk to cross the street at another time in his life. And he lost the lesser so he could gain the greater. And the greater was his life. And it's the same thing that Paul said. That which was gained to me, I counted dung to receive the knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. And so I've been on this journey of getting to know him. And as I get to know him, he reveals to me who I am in him. And that's a beautiful butterfly. Old things have passed away, and behold, all things become brand new. And not to say that we won't have challenges. We're going to have challenges. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers us from them all. That's the beauty of his promises, that no matter where we are, we can rest assured that he is with us. He is the God who sees us in our lowest moments. And that's what gives us this blessed assurance. That's what gives us the confidence. Our confidence is not in this flesh. Our confidence is in the power of God, who is able to keep us from falling. He said, in quiet and in confidence, this shall be your strength. You have strength to move mountains. I call it a fortified femininity, because fortified means to have courage, to have strength in the midst of pain. We're going to go through some painful situations, and such as has been my journey over the past 20 plus years, there has been one pain after the other, but that pain was introducing me into my power. You've got to learn how to convert that pain into power. And I stopped being the wallflower and decided I was going to be a high tower. I was going to stand tall no matter what was going on in my life. I'm inspired by Beethoven. Beethoven was not a tall man, but he was carrying around within himself music for the decades. Even after he lost his hearing, he was still composing beautiful music that we enjoy to this day. So we have to learn that we are overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, or words of our testimony. Don't stop speaking. There is so much power in you using your voice. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. And whatever you speak, that's what you're going to begin to create in your natural world. One of my favorite quotes is, you get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. Now, once I gave my life to the Lord, I was so hungry to know more and more and more. And my mother can tell you, I remember hearing her on the telephone with one of her friends saying, my baby reads now. I started reading. I just had this voracious appetite to know things. Had no idea that 20 plus years later that I would be speaking on major platforms, educating the masses. And this is the beauty of believing. We believe in seed form. If our faith is the size of a grain of a mustard seed, there is nothing we cannot do. It can move mountains. So don't discount wherever your faith level is. Your faith is just as powerful as you believe it to be. I've watched God do so many things with my faith in him and the ability to speak it out. Because once again, I was the introvert. I was the shy girl. I was timid. And I would rarely speak out, let alone in public. Oh, that wasn't happening. I had all this information in my head and these ideas wanting to share, but fear is like the python, and it just comes to choke you and it paralyzes you. And I am passionate about helping women to unleash their truth. because no one is you, and that is your power. Your story has so much strength in it. It is going to be a lifeline to someone who is drowning in their pain right now. And that was one thing that helped me get outside of my shell. Stop focusing on me, that it had to be perfect, that my words, even my southern accent, that someone was going to have a problem with my southern accent. I'm going to tell you how bad I had it. I would look out the peephole in my own apartment to make sure nobody outside could hear me singing in my safe space. I wouldn't listen to my voice on the answer machine because I didn't like the way I sounded. That's just a lie from the pit of hell. And I had to learn that my voice is beautiful and that God had a purpose and a plan before the foundation of the world began. According to Jeremiah 29:11, I know the thoughts and the plans that I have for you, thoughts of good and not evil, to bring about hope and an expected end. I want you to shift your focus from yourself, and I want you to fix it on the author and the finisher of your faith. Now, when I began to use my voice, it has been a long journey of practicing every single video, every radio interview, every article that I write. All of it is helping to develop my communication skills, even down to my career. I was a secretary for about 6 years, and at the time I had no idea that it was going to be preparing me for the entrepreneur that I would be. From answering the telephone every single day to all the admin work that I was doing, I was going to need those skills to manage this growing business. So wherever you are, if you feel like I've been here too long, find a way to count it all joy. I often say we can celebrate not just the grand slams, but the micro wins. Because God even tells us in everything to give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Gratitude is expansive. It helps open us up. Whereas when we get into complaint and murmuring, it's very, very immobilizing and restricting. And it seems like the walls are caving in. And so I began this journey of developing myself. I found the gift in inspiring and encouraging and empowering. It just was coming naturally, but I never thought about it as a career. Until one day I remember being recruited to educate models, and I wasn't wearing makeup at the time. I was a plain Jane. I know people see me now and I'm in queen apparel, but I was a plain Jane. I had to learn too. Everybody's learning. We just get better with time, like a fine wine. But I remember teaching models, and that inspired me to do better in my own grooming and to learn how to put makeup on so I could teach others. And that's another thing I like to say. We live by design, not default. And so I got off the default setting and started being intentional about how I was showing up in the world. And after I taught models, I went into the beauty industry. And so I became a licensed esthetician, and I went on this long journey of serving clients, but it was one of the most challenging and arduous paths that I've ever been on. Learning how to be an entrepreneur, doing it from the ground up with minimal resources. I remember one of my mentors saying, Christy, don't ever allow money to dictate what you can or cannot have, what you can or cannot be. And I just use that. I use that as a source of light in the darkest times when I was in the valley low. And it kept me going forward no matter how dismal it felt and it appeared to be. And so I've launched business 3 times. And so the first time was when I was working at the homeless shelter. That was December 6, 1999. And they had a budget cut. And I recognized that I didn't want to put all of my eggs in one basket, because if they took away that one basket, I was going to be out of gas. I had nowhere to go but up. And I went to the Division of Corporations. I filed a fictitious business name, at that time, Sweet Smelling Savors. And that was one of my learning lessons. The name of a business is everything. People thought I was selling baked goods, and I was not selling baked goods. I was selling bowls of hope, potpourri filled, and then a little candle on the top. And so that definitely did not do well, to say the least. And so after 8 months of struggling, I went into the secretarial position that I mentioned earlier. And one of my friend girls said she knew someone who was hiring. And so I was there for 6 years, and I was getting that entrepreneurial itch again. If you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. It's just always going to be there since childhood. I've just been a creative, love dreaming, love using my imagination. And here I am ready to launch again. I put in my 2 weeks notice. We have a going away party for Christy, and I launch out, get a building, have a ribbon cutting ceremony. All of my friends and family are there. And 3 months later, I am moving out just as fast as I moved in. And so here I am back at the drawing board. But this time was different. I found myself in a deep depression for 10 months. No one knew because I am the motivational speaker, right? I am the one that is the life of the party. I get it started. I bring the heat. And here I was behind closed doors in a deep, dark depression. And it was another dark moment in my journey, and I'll never forget it. I remember laying in a fetus position, and I said, you can be powerful or you can be pitiful, but you cannot be both. You can be powerful or you can be powerless, but you cannot be both at the same time. And after 10 months, I was tired of having the pity party, and I got up and I said, 2008 is going to be great. I am going to beauty school. And that's when I got my license, and had been serving in those capacities at different spas, day spas. And so from there, having 7 fibroid tumors in my body growing at the same time, I became severely anemic. And it was life and death, ladies. I was trying to survive out there, but my life flow. I was getting so low, I could barely even walk up 2 flights of steps. And I knew something had to change. I had to change. I had to humble myself. And I went back. Do you hear me? I went back to the same job that gave me a going away party 6 years prior. I humbled myself. I ate the crow. And I had my surgery. And I was there for 2 years. I said, I want to be here for 2 years. That was my goal. And I would transition out because I wasn't happy. There was a toxic environment. I mean, the stress levels were so high. The first time I would break out in hives. And I just knew it just wasn't the best fit for me overall. But the surgery would cost about $35,000 to $40,000. And so I did what was necessary. Sometimes you're going to have to do the hard thing. I love this affirmation that says, beautiful girl, you can do hard things. And so I did the hard thing. I ate the crow, went back to work, and I lived. Do you hear me? I lived. I remember seeing that cat going across the street that lost his tail. He was willing to take the risk. You're going to have to give up the lesser for the greater. And so I was still alive. And from there, I remember being recruited by a medical day spa. And that was 2014. 2014 was my year. After all that I had been through, all the heartache and pain, I was winning again. And I married the love of my life, Mr. Lamont Odell Ward. Even gave me down to the princess cut ring I wanted. I put it in a vision book years before I would ever meet him, after going on a 13-year hiatus from dating, because I said, the next time I date, it is going to be my husband. I am not playing around with this. I'm going to know. I want to know clearly it's him. And I was very specific, 60 bullet points specific. And so I remember going to a business meeting and met him, and we talked like we were best friends. And that's one thing I tell him today. I've always loved our ability just to communicate, to talk, and he creates a safe space for me. He's loved me like no one else has ever loved me. After all the rejection, all the pain, God will turn it around. He works all things together for our good, and I appreciate him so much because I know what it's like on the other side of rejection. But I ended up creating 6 vision books and 20 vision boards to amplify my belief. And so when I get married in 2014 and I'm recruited into this new job a couple months later, I find myself March 2015 receiving what I call the infamous pink slip, and I turned it into Konfidence. Yes, it's been 6 years, and in that 6 years, I've stood on a TEDx stage. I've paid off my home 12 years early. I have traveled across the globe. This year, we have new opportunities to speak, retreats, you name it. My name is on the roster, but it has been a long, long journey. And what I've learned throughout the years is that you have to believe in yourself. When no one else believes, even when you don't believe, you still have to believe, because with God, all things are possible. That's what has been my sustaining power. He tells us to be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. His will is for us to prosper. And he said, if we meditate in his law day and night, we shall have good success. That's what I've been holding on to, that I am blessed in the city. I am blessed in the field. I am blessed when I come in. I am blessed when I go out. The word of God is my secret source of confidence. When I am weak, I am made strong. We are renewed in the spirit of our minds through his word. But many people neglect the very thing that would give them confidence. And so I want to encourage you to hope against hope wherever you are. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I am saying it shall be worth it. And I know you've heard that before. Fall in love with the discomfort zone, because the comfort zone, there's not much happening there. There's not much growth taking place in the comfort zone. We've got to be willing to put some skin in the game, and that's all I've been doing, is shedding some skin day by day by day. And there are so many lives that I am afforded to touch that I would not have been able to had I not gotten outside of my own mind, outside of myself. I often say, if you step into wonder, anxiety has to surrender. If you step into wonder, anxiety will surrender. And what does that look like? I wonder how I will impress myself today. I wonder how I will dismantle doubt today. I wonder. And sometimes you just have to take baby steps. When I came out of that deep, dark depression, I just said, if I could just do one thing every single day. Some days, that's all I had the energy to do, was one thing. And I said, do it now. Just one thing a day. And I began keeping track of my own action steps. That's self-accountability. I was doing one thing a day to get me moving towards my goal. I didn't have a team. It was me, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and the Father. That was my team. And if God be for you, there is no one who can be against you. If God be for you, there is no one who can be against you. Even when I was battling getting rid of debt, I remember a company challenging me and wanting to sue me, a debt that they had taken over. And I remember being in my prayer closet for 4 days. And I said, God, I need you to fight this one for me, because there is no way I can win in my own strength. This massive corporation coming for me. And do you know, the day that we were supposed to have court, that Monday morning, I received a call from my friend who was an attorney. And he said, they have withdrawn the suit. He said, in the time that I have been serving as a lawyer, that is not common. People who file lawsuits don't just withdraw them. But I knew that my God had responded. So don't waste your breath in the sphere of complaining. Use your breath in the sphere of prophesying. Prophesy to the winds. Prophesy to your bank account. Prophesy to whatever it is that you desire to create, because there is power in your mouth. Use your voice. even if it trembles. Use your voice, even if your knees shake. Use your voice. I was coaching a young lady this past week, and I asked her, "Who are you?" And the first thing she said was, "I am not as smart as others are. I don't speak as well as others do." And I was writing in my notes and I kept circling others. I said, if you were to stand in front of a mirror and you were to seek to find your own beauty and to behold it, you can't, because others is in front of your face. But if you remove them, the beauty that's always been there is easily recognizable now. Ian Van Zant said, comparison is an act of violence against the self. Comparison is an act of violence against the self, yourself. And that's why the Bible tells us they who compare themselves with others are not wise. And you know that we are believers in the world. We're in this world, but we're not of this world. And we have all types of social media platforms that want us to compare our lives one with another. I often say, inside of us is this big space, and we get to decide what we want to fill it up with. Celebration, appreciation, affirmation, and validation. Celebration, appreciation, affirmation, and validation. If you fill yourself up with celebration, affirmation, appreciation, and validation, you won't have room, you won't have space for doubt and insecurities and fears to talk to you, because you'll be too full of giving thanks and adoration, too full of life, too full of joy, unspeakable joy, too full to be empty, too full to be disheartened, too full of life to complain. In everything, give thanks. In everything, give thanks. Some days it's going to be harder than others, but still, muster up every ounce of strength to give thanks, because He is good and His mercy endures forever. He is good. He is with you. He is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. I've lived it. I know it to be true. And with loving kindness and tender mercy, He has drawn us to Him. This world will judge us. It's going to judge our appearance. It's going to judge everything. But whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And we know that we are accepted in the Beloved. That is what gives us confidence. It's nothing external. It all comes from within. We have this treasure in earthen vessels. And so I just come to remind you of the beauty you possess. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I know some days you're going to doubt that. And so I hope and I pray that this video serves as a reminder that if God can take a shy girl from Sarasota, Florida, who had nothing really going for herself, who was making all the wrong decisions, and it led to low self-esteem, and then create this beautiful, wonderful life, it can happen for you as well, because we are all His. God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever would believe in Him will not perish, but have everlasting life. You are loved. Be comforted in knowing that you are loved. You are loved. You are loved. And that is our hope. That is our strength. I'm Christy Kennedy, image confidence expert, saying, no one is you, and that is your power. Be your own kind of beautiful. Learn to celebrate. And as you celebrate, God will elevate. Thank you.